This is Dream Power Radio, the place where your dreams turn into reality. Here is your host, Debbie Spector-Weissman.
Hello, and welcome to Dream Power Radio on the amazing Women and Men of Power Network, the world's leading positive programming network powered by Raven International. I'm your host, Debbie Spector-Weissman, the Dream Coach. This is a show where we talk about dreams, both daytime and nighttime dreams, and how you can use them to make the internal shift to a life you love and rediscover the truth of who you really are. My journey to where I am today has been a long one, and one that's taken me places I once didn't know existed. Here's an example of what I mean. About a dozen years ago, when I got involved in a documentary called Dreaming Heaven, I came in contact with someone who called himself a shaman. At the time, I believed a shaman was some kind of tribal person who performed strange ritualistic practices. But this man was an American who struck me as a kind soul with very practical ideas. I'm happy to say he's now my friend. Francis Rico has spent years teaching indigenous wisdom to students everywhere. He's the author of the book, A Shaman's Guide to Deep Beauty, and has a new book coming out, Becoming Feral. Welcome to Dream Power Radio, Rico.
Thank you. I can't help but notice that we have the same hair, no matter what the color is. Look at what we've got going. It's like,
I know. Well,
we've always been related by hair somehow.
You are my hair brother.
Yes, I guess.
Yes, which is great. For those in the audience who may also have misconceptions about the word shaman, like I did, tell us what it means to be a shaman.
The word itself is from a verb-based language, from the Tungus tribe and Venki language group in Siberia. And really what it means is it means vibrating in a certain way. It means vibrating, leaping, jumping up and leaping out of the contraction or the constriction of normal reality, but not just high, deep simultaneously and broad simultaneously. So it means leaping out. But also it's one of those words that has many layers of meaning. One of them is seen in the dark, but the darkness that it's talking about seeing in is in the normal, quote unquote, normal reality, the consensual reality that we allow or that we accept. So shaman's actually a verb, and someone calling themselves that, unless they kind of let you know what they're talking about, yeah, it's a vibrational art, and everybody is creating their reality. It's just, can you do this art with style? Can you do it with creating mutual benefit for yourself and others? My grandfather was a Makato shaman, so we call it a shaman, but what that just defined was that Makato means in between worlds, and he was able to go from what we call ordinary reality. This is back in the late 40s, right? From ordinary reality to non-ordinary reality. And in fact, what we know now and what we're all experiencing is that there is no ordinary and there is no non-ordinary reality. It is very much what you said in your introduction. There's an element of the dream to everything, not only the dream at night when we're asleep, but also the dream of our daytime assembly of reality. We tend to accept it as normal because we think it's normal. But in fact, it is just, it's as imaginative as any dream we've ever dreamt at night also. So there are interesting realms, like there's a realm of lucid dreaming that is part of shamanic traditions. If I can just say shaman, and everyone, you understand that it means a vibrational art. It means the art of moving from contraction to expansion. And I believe that everyone can do this. This is, of course, a position that was held in a tribe out of necessity in tribal groups, that someone who had this skill would go outside of normal reality and would look for solutions, like what are the herbs and the plants and the medicines that this person needs? What are the resources? Like, do you need an otter? To go diving into the water and what do you need? Do you need foxes? Do you need lions? Do you need an elephant? Do you need, that fierce, ferocious, protective love? What does the person need? So a shaman's role was to do that for the benefit of tribe. Now, I think, faced with the great emergencies that confront us. The price of awakening now is very different than it used to be. The price of our awakening is awakening to the reality that we're faced with mutual overlapping emergencies.
Yeah.
And
I think it's very interesting that you say that anyone can really do this. It's not just a special thing that's just, given to one person.
no, not at all. As a matter of fact, we can demonstrate it. I mean, I can share a practice with you that is the practice of shamanism, the way it's taught by the old Kalawayas, who are the holders of shamanic wisdom in the Americas, and they live in the ice fields of the Royal Andes, and they in Bolivia, and they eat sunlight and a skimpy little diet, and yet they're robust and healthy and strong. They live in a place that is so, nobody goes there. I went there 11 years in a row before they would acknowledge my presence, that I was actually visiting, before they would, I guess I was like a fruit fly or something that was like, flying around their periphery. Finally, and very simple and very practical, energetic workers. But I can share that with you right now. This is also, as it happens, a concordance of a meeting of contemporary leading edge neurophysiology and accessing our neuroplasticity simultaneously with the way that the old elders teach and the way that they taught and the way that I learned. Of course, they use a hand, and this hand message through time has been held by all the avatars of our species. All the holy people have sent this message in sign language. And of course, we interpret it in different ways, but they keep sending this message. So let's find out what that message is about. Now, in neurological terms, so people know that there is an empirical, strong, real foundation in terms of our physiology and how we're constructed, what our potential is, a neurologist will use your hand and your wrist. The wrist is a model of your spinal cord. The base of your palm is your metabolic brain. We have a three-part brain. It's called the triune brain. And the three parts are metabolic, limbic, tucked in, the next outgrowth, the mammalian brain, the paleo-mammalian brain is also called. It's like it's what we share with all mammals, all creatures. And then also the neocortical brain, the new cortex, folded over. So this is a model that a neurologist will use to point out where an issue or a problem is. They'll show you this is how you're constructed. We also, very interestingly, have a gut intelligence, a very strong, that gut biome intelligence, a heart, and an innate intelligence. So I didn't design this. We are a three-part system. We have these three potentially integrated, synergistic centers of intelligence. We don't usually live like that, but it is possible. So go ahead and put your thumb in the middle of your palm, and now fold your fingers over it, but don't really hurt yourself. But go ahead and squeeze it to the point where you begin to notice that you're restricting your blood flow. That's stress, and that, of course, this position of us as contracted beings is disabled. It's disempowered. The opposite of this is not empowerment, but it certainly is agility and creative ability and resourcefulness and access. This is a very limited field. In the reactive world, what this is good at is violence, and it's good at domination. And it's also good at the biggest fist that hits. The violence of it is the predator, dominator culture that has infected the human species. So this is a model of us in this modern age. Now relax your hand for a moment, but don't open it. Okay, that's normal. Now contract it again. Okay, that's too limited a range for our human experience. And of course, once in a while, and we all have this ability, you interact with a child or an infant or with a cat or with a paintbrush or with a musical instrument or whatever your art form is, and you open and you become creative and resourceful. But here's the shamanic practice, and here's the neurological practice that parallels this, that will open a reality to you that is amazing. This is practical applying shamanism. So when you notice that you are distressed or that something distressing or frustrating, pick something small, because what you want to do is one of the leading edge discoveries from Stanford in neurophysiology that normally studies pathology, but this is a new evolution studying wellness and how do we access our neuroplasticity, is that real shift happens from gentle easy, slightly slowed down, and increased subtle awareness that it is, in fact, the little gentle things that you notice that turn on the light, it's like a little tiny light switch in our lives, in our neurophysiology. And that's what accessing our neuroplasticity is: new horizons, new opportunities. So you notice something very small that irritates you, normally that you would write off. We all have these things in our life. So some small little irritating thing, or when something comes up and you hear a news story that distresses you, like, God, another shooting or something, demonstrate that the effect of this fearful message, stressful message from our culture is to contract you, because it does. We contract into a defensive posture. When you notice that, open to the present moment. So this language is not really important, but I'm going to go ahead and share it just so you know. In the face of distress, I open to the present moment. That's the start. Sure. Once you are open to the present moment, of course you could be resourceful and creative, but here's the art part. When you open to the present moment, instead of engaging in acting in the world, turn to your own heart for the guidance from source. This isn't just intuition. This is so deep. Our hearts are connected with the heart of creation. Our hearts are connected with life-affirming, loving, and caring for life. In total, we love life. So you're connecting. The first thing you do when you open to the present moment, connect with source for guidance. And with your left hand, bring that to your other. Remember, we have metabolic, limbic, and neocortical. So we're connecting limbic with embodiment. Put your left hand on your lower belly. And what you've got when you do that, what you have is a double helix spiral of your own energy. Well, I see the rainbow behind you, and it's so beautiful because I also see a rainbow around you. This rainbow body that we all have is a biophotonic field that's now being also studied by neurophysiologists. It's being called the tensegrity body. They borrowed that word from Buckminster Fuller. Everybody borrows words from Buckminster Fuller because he was a genius. I'm going to borrow some words from him, but tensional integrity is what that means. So the light-based biophotonic field that is emanating from you, and also you're connected to light, is being called the tensegrity body, or the biophotonic field. And when you do what I just suggested, when you open, you activate flow. From contraction, you move into flow, and you're directing that flow to a connection with your own heart, connected to source. And so some language we could use is, in the face of distress, I open to the present moment with love and without fear. And the without fear that we're talking about is without the chronic contraction of fear. This doesn't mean that you have a diplomatic immunity from stepping in front of a bus. You don't have to be frightened of anything. No, we want to be reasonable. This is not spiritual or dogmatic. This is practical energy. So you open to the present moment with love and without fear, with connection to source, without compromise of the gift of who you are. And
I love that this is just such practical advice.
Yeah.
It's not something.
And when you do it, it turns on a light. Now, it's just a little spark at first, but it illuminates an area. And then you do it again, and then something stressful happens. Somebody cuts you off in traffic. You don't have to physically do this. Very quickly, it becomes holographic or dream-based, where in the presence of that distress, you open to the present moment. And then when you open with love and without fear, suddenly, instead of that asshole cut me, instead of that, you come to the place of, wow, driving unconscious, acting out anger on the road with 3,000 pounds of metal, hurtling at 6, who knows the damage that is happening for that person, and the damage that suddenly a blessing can go out rather than a curse. And this can happen everywhere. One quick example. I'm standing in line behind somebody at Whole Foods, health food store. And here's a guy buying 2 bags of potato chips, big bags of potato chips, and a 6-pack of beer. And it's not even a great boutique beer. It's it's some Miller or something like that. He's probably in his late 60s, 70s. He's pudgy, out of shape, and he's flirting with the checker. And she's like a 22-year-old little cute blonde girl. And she's been told by Whole Foods, the customer is always right. And he's saying things like, I know I have some money. I don't know where it is, though. Where would you guess I keep my money? To her, he's doing all this as far as I'm concerned, like totally inappropriate, bizarre stuff. And then I realized, oh, I'm moving into distress myself. What if I just open to this moment? And what if I open with love and without fear, with connection with my own source and without compromise of myself? What's really going on here? Suddenly I see a different situation than I saw when I was in this contracted, reactive world. I open and I see this is his wife when he met her 50 years ago. And he's flirting with her. He comes back to get in her line. He has a television set and he drinks beer and watches sports, has very few friends, is not very active, she died maybe 10 years ago or something, and is kind of like the sad bachelor. And this is his one connection with the dream of his life having had beauty and love and preciousness in it. And now it's just, and the moment I see that, and I feel compassion for her as well, because here she is, one more odd male hit on her that she doesn't understand where it's coming from. She knows it's weird, but she's being as polite as she can. It's her job. She has a child. She's a single mom, on and on, begin to see this whole larger picture. I send a blessing and suddenly the whole situation changes. And I feel a wave of compassion move across her. And she says, please take your time. And the reality of that, he pays his money and she gives him a real smile. And she actually touches him on the arm as she gives his bag and he goes out the door. And I send a blessing to him that maybe instead of just watching sports, maybe he'll go out for a walk. Just start getting something, and whole situation changed completely. Then when I breezed through, I could have gone through, continued angry, then got in my car, pulled out fast, jammed out onto the, no, the whole situation evolved into multiple blessings. So a lot of times I'll go into Whole Foods and I'll practice with children that are screaming and flipping out and their moms are going crazy because they're trying to control a toddler, and just send a little blessing to a child. And part of it, and I don't know if they look at you this way, Debbie, but they look at me and then they go like, what? Because I'm not sending love. I'm not, giving them the eye or anything. I'm just sending a blessing, just like boom, like that. And suddenly they calm down and mom has a child again instead of a screaming demon, Then when my wife goes in and I'm not there, they say, hey, where is your husband? Where is he? Because usually when he comes and he walks around, he looks at everything, within 45 minutes, we sell out. It's like,
this just shows how important intention and awareness are. And with that, we're going to take a short break here. We are speaking about all the joys in the world with my guest, Francis Rico, and we'll be right back. If you're not pleased with the trajectory of your life, the time to begin your own personal transformation is now, and your dreams can help pave the way. How? By tapping into your unvoiced confidence. What is unvoiced confidence, you say? It's the acceptance of your abilities and qualities. It's a state of mind coming from liking and even loving yourself, and feeling free to say or do anything you want without concern for the judgment of others. You were born confident, but may have had it chipped away little by the negative self-beliefs you've picked up over the years. If you're looking for the heightened energy, clarity of thought, and the feeling of being more alive that comes from self-confidence, you can rediscover it by paying attention to your dreams. Need some help doing this? Go to my website, thedreamcoach.net, and sign up for my complimentary dream discovery session. I can help show you how your dreams can help you return to the confident person you were always meant to be. Again, go to thedreamcoach.net. thedreamcoach.net.
Welcome back to Dream Power Radio with your host, Debbie Spector-Weissman.
Yes, welcome back to Dream Power Radio. I'm your host, Debbie Spector-Weissman, and we're speaking with Francis Rico about the practical benefits of what some people call shamanism. Rico, ever since the pandemic started, I've been talking about the need for all of us to use this time to slow down and look within ourselves. How has the pandemic affected you, and how has your practice helped you get through it?
very interesting question, because again, very practically, and what I would like people to know is that what we call shamanism is not an arcane indigenous art only for indigenous people. It's like we're all indigenous to planet Earth. We're faced with global necessity for our emergence for each of us. So the call is for each of us to come present. So in the face of any emergency, you're being called to emerge. And what happens when we're threatened by things like COVID is that you can't fight it and you can't run from it. It's a pandemic, a global pandemic. And as a result, in our autonomic nervous system, which has the gas is the sympathetic nervous system, and the brakes is the rest cycle is the parasympathetic. Well, we end up hitting the gas, and because we can't fight and we can't run, we end up immobilized. Like this closed system I'm talking about ends up just vibrating and shaking. We get angry. We start inventing conspiracy theories. The further out, it all makes sense because this doesn't make any sense at all. So when you continue to move to, well, there is a response that I can come to. Instead of being frightened, first of all, I could be respectful. And instead of being angry and frightened at other people's opinions, which is a lot of, family distress about this. You should wear a mask. You shouldn't wear a mask. You got to get vaccinated. It's a big plot, on and on and on. All the different things that are the tangle of it that keep us contracted. Instead of that, you can move to a simple place of respect for other people's positions and find your way. What makes sense to you? What is the path that is love in action? What is the path that has benefit for yourself and for others? And from there, we move out of the lockdown of we can't run and we can't fight. So we contract and disassociate and become angry and be that lockdown spot and the anger and the distress, like nobody can stop me from having hamburgers. No one's going to tell me what to do. No one's going to tell me I can't go to a bar and drink, and on and on and on. All that is completely eliminated, because what you can do is you can take care of yourself and others, and you can be respectful of the differences of opinion. The most important thing that happens is that when you restore this response instead of the reaction, your parasympathetic system, which is the regenerative, restorative rest place, is active, and you actually begin to feel better. This is the place where your immune system kicks in, which is a good idea. So this is the advice that when I work with people wound up upset, uptight, usually people get depressed. Who wouldn't? If you're disempowered, there's nothing you can do. It's a big conspiracy, on and on and on. That position is firmly locked inside of what we call the trance. And when you open to the present moment and you look for guidance from source, and you do it without contracted fear, but with reasonable fear, suddenly a bunch of options show up that you never even thought. A bunch of creative ways of living your life, a way of sharing. I mean, Zoom itself, and the way that we are, we're doing things like this now because you're on one coast and I'm on another, but people are meeting by Zoom, family are conferring by Zoom, the educational system has slipped into this mode. I mean, all kinds of solutions begin to emerge that didn't exist except for business meetings just a little bit before that. From a dream point of view, though, what happens is that you liberate yourself from disempowerment and you realize that you can be creative and agile. I don't know what surrounds every individual person, but I can tell you that you don't see it when you're contracted, and you begin to see it when you move to this more responsive realm. And we all have this instinct to care for life and to care for ourselves that gets better. We get better when we move to this open spot. So that's why I think applying shamanism, rather than thinking of it as something that is done with sweat lodges only and power journeys, which are wonderful, this is very practical energetics. And that's what applying shamanism. I have another course called Practical Magic, which is so simple. This is the place that thinks that anything that happens in this realm is magical, and it's not. Our open, agile, creative, resourceful, responsive selves are naturally magical and miraculous. This is, I'm not sure the terminology that you would switch this to in terms of dreaming, but your dreams can come true if you're willing to admit that you're dreaming and that you can have a part in shaping this in a creative way.
Oh, absolutely. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that we're all energy beings. There's energy all around us. And when we embrace what's around us and raise our energy level, everything changes. We're lighter, we're more creative, we're less stressed, we're open. And, that's the way we all want to be, I would think. Uh,
That's that message from all of our holy people. Each one of us are innately designed to open. And this field of openness that you could call enlightenment just means that there's light. It means that you're not in this contracted darkness where you don't see what's possible. So enlightenment in this shamanic tradition is just the first step towards caring for yourself and others in life. But that's the message that we've been sent. And if you look at your hand and you try this out, if you'd give it I would say if you give it 90 seconds a day for 10 days, if you would give it that much, you'll see an actual change in the way that your life looks.
and then you're creating the habit. Like I said in the intro, I first met you working on the movie Dreaming Heaven, which was a documentary where you were one of the teachers leading a group of people on a journey in Teotihuacan, Mexico. Are you still doing these trips?
Yes, Teotihuacan is still very, very central. And I also take people to Peru, through the Sacred Valley into Machu Picchu, and then particularly up to the lake and to some of the places that are in the Royal Andes there. Yeah, there's places where, well, Teo is our shortcut name for it, is the place of foundation. The stories of it go back 24,000 years. And it is a foundational place for the source of the indigenous wisdom traditions of the Americas. Short story on that is I was looking for reestablishing my relationship with my grandfather, who Pedro Angel Fernandez, with a lot of names beyond that. So these old indigenous teachers knew that I was plugged in to something because I had been raised by him, and he was my first teacher. But what they all taught was that there was a place that was the original University of Spirit of the Americas that operated from 16,000 to about 8,000 years ago. And it was a place that the indigenous wisdom traditions that we share here all source from. So going back to the pyramids are markers for caves that started off as little tiny stone markers that got bigger and became an entire cave and an entire civilized complex, an educational system that taught seed conservation and agriculture and water conservation and water use and hydraulics and everything from pottery manufacture and glazing to fabric and textiles and what we would call spiritual, but they didn't think of it as spiritual. They thought it as energetic, practical energetics used for healing, used for wellness, used for creating counsel, used for creating better solutions. So Teo remains an absolutely central place for me. And it's a place where the Dreaming House at Teotihuacan, where we stay, is a beautiful, beautiful mystery school home. So they're very comfortable journeys, and it's a place for people to discover their own giftedness and their emergence. So it's not a place where you're taught some old mythology. It's a place where you're encouraged to bring it on, to bring it out, to bring that emergence of the gift of you. So I love taking people there.
Hey, it is so true what you're saying. I mean, I've had some amazing experiences there, but I can't believe how this time has flown. So I just have time for the last question. How can people find out more about you and your services?
Probably the simplest is to go to my website, which is shaman.zone. Shamanzone.com was kind of the old school way of doing it, shamanzone.com, but shaman.zone will take you there, and a link to contacting me, also a link to what's up, what I'm doing, a benefit series for the Dreaming House is going on currently, but also these programs applying shamanism, practical magic, access to my book, access to resources and tools. Yeah, check it out, because you will find that the shaman in you, that vibrational artist in you, is what my community supports.
Oh, fabulous. Well, thank you so much for being on Dream Power Radio today.
Thank you, Debbie.
Okay, we've been speaking with healer and educator Francis Rico. I hope you've enjoyed today's program. If you have, please tell all your friends, follow me, and drop a positive review on your podcast site. And if you're on Clubhouse, join me in my club, Club Dreams, where I host weekly rooms on all aspects of dream work. Until next time, this is Debbie Spector-Weissman saying, sweet dreams, everybody.
You've been listening to Dream Power Radio with your host, Debbie Spector Weissman. For more information on Debbie or to sign up for her newsletter, go to dreampowerradio.com. This has been Dream Power Radio on the amazing Women and Men of Power Network, the world's leading positive programming network, powered by Raven International.